Welcome to Jhart Modelworks and update 3 on the Porsche 356 Cabriolet wide-body restomod.
Woohoo!
We have finished off the interior, mostly completed the front trunk space, as well as completed the transaxle and rear suspension, and the body has been clear coated. Welcome to my workbench. Let's get started. Alright, so we're going to start with the interior, which is completed, fully assembled. We did go ahead and scratch build the roll bar and get that put in place as well. I tried using 14 gauge jewelry wire, which would have had a brighter shine to it, but I couldn't get the solder joint to hold properly. It just kept breaking off. I'm using some cheap solder. It's not the good solder that I normally use, so I did end up using some 1.8 millimeter plastic rod and dipped the center of that rod in some nearly boiling water. I brought it to a boil and then let it cool for a little bit. And then I bent the rod around a Sharpie marker barrel so that I could get that curve. I also drilled out some 3.2 millimeter plastic rod and glued that onto the bottom to make the mounting brace for the base. Our steering wheel, the center is LP5. The arms are LP48 sparkling silver, and the wood steering wheel was done using some acrylic, some Tamiya JHS brown, and then some clear orange. And rather than using the kit decal, I just put one of the very smallest of the 3D Porsche emblems onto the center of the steering wheel. I think that came out really nice. We also have mostly completed the trunk area. We did some of these bottles in here in white. There's 3 white parts in there. I don't know exactly what this box is over here. But after doing the white, I went ahead and hit it with some Tamiya panel line access color, and then just cleaned it up with some odorless mineral spirits. That way the white wasn't so incredibly bright. It kind of tones it down and gives it just kind of a dirty look to it. Also, have our gas tank done. This was supposed to have been done in semi-gloss black, and just everything in the trunk is semi-gloss black. I didn't really want to do that, so I did some Tamiya German gray and just kind of hit some highlights with some silver. And then I added some braided line in here. This is some braided line from ProTech, that's where it's ProTech. So I just kind of drilled out that hole and added some of this braided line in here. I do go to glue that in place. The fuel filler goes through the hole in the side. Just kind of tuck that braided line down in there, set it into place. Just grab that braided line, tuck that in, and you'll have a fuel line running back to the back towards the engine. The only pieces left for the trunk area are the spare tire, the jack, and the tool pouch. I've never seen a kit with a jack in it and a tool pouch in it, much less a spare tire. Most of the kits don't have spare tires. Every now and then you'll see one, like often on race cars or something, you'll see like a spare tire in the back or something, if it was in a class that required it. But that's just how detailed this kit is. It's got everything in this kit. Alright, so these are all the parts for our rear transaxle and rear suspension. We have our shocks and this appears to be like a rear swing arm suspension piece. The back of the transaxle case, which I have already gone ahead and pre-glued in with this cross member here. There is the cross member frame support. All of this is supposed to, with the exception of the actual case and the transaxle, were supposed to be in semi-gloss black, but I, of course, didn't do that. We have our starter. We have a throwout bearing, which will completely disappear once everything's assembled, and you'll never see it again, so I want to take a moment to point that out. You have the transaxle itself, and there's a little locating pin in there that goes into the center of the transaxle case. Goes inside the transaxle case pieces. And right in the center there's a notch on both sides of those. You'll notice that the ends of the transaxle are in a D shape or a half round. It is important that you install these inside the transaxle case correctly. So they're going to sit in just like that, and there's the curve up to the transaxle case. The flat side of the D points up with that curve. The flat side of that D fits in the back end of these swing arms. So if you put this in upside down, and it's entirely possible to do, you won't be able to set the rear suspension. So it's important that you test fit everything and that you mount everything in the right direction before you do it. You cannot pre-assemble the transaxle case, as you have to glue the transaxle inside. I might not actually glue it, but you at least have to set it inside. I'm probably going to leave mine loose so I have a little bit more wiggle room when I'm setting everything up, but you do have to make sure you get that right side up. So the rear suspension is all assembled, as well as the transaxle in here. All of this was supposed to be semi-gloss black with the exception of the actual transaxle case and this part of the transaxle, and I wasn't feeling it at all, so I did a lot of the LP38 flat aluminum. I think it gives it a little bit more visual interest. Again, I did the shocks with just some of that candy electric blue from Zero Paints over gray. This is a very, very snug fit, trying to get all these pieces in here, and I mean, it's literally so snug in here that I did not glue the suspension bits to this cross member here. It's literally just pressure fit together, and it will not come out. I literally could not take this apart without tearing this up if I wanted to. So I'm not worried about that coming loose at all. I did glue in the shocks, and I glued the cross members into place, this support beam, as well as the transaxles are glued in, but yeah, that's just press fit. see. I forgot to glue the starter in, so that was kind of tricky getting that in, but I did get it in there. Also see our throwout bearing in the transmission, the transaxle. That's a detail that's going to go away once the engine gets mounted. There's so much detail on this. I was looking at some of the stuff, and it looks like there's actually a clutch plate. Now finally, I want to talk about the body. As you can see, we've got the clear coat down. Gravity Colors 2K. Went down really well. Did have a couple of issues. There was a small piece of trash right there. You can just barely make it out. It was a glob of, looks like it was a glob of dried 2K. Where's it at? I lost it. Yeah, it was right there. There was a glob of dried 2K that went in there on the first coat. There was another one right there. There was a tiny nib of dust back here, but that's been mostly gone as well. And then there was one back here on this rear deck hood that's, it's gone. I was able to sand those out and clean those up as best as I could. I didn't want to push too hard, as this one especially is on a curve, which is an area which will be typically very thin for the 2K, so I didn't want to burn through it and start getting into the paint. There's a little bit of dust here and there. There's some dust nibs in the hood. That's all been cleaned up. So all in all, it has come out really, really well. I can be pretty satisfied with that. Now, I did break down to get some micro mesh. I did not used to use micro mesh. I used Tamiya sanding sponge, but I used my 2000 grit and then my 3000 grit sanding sponge, and then hit it with the 5000 grit Trizact, and that just did not do the trick. I had a bit of orange, just a slight bit of orange peel, especially on these flats on the sides. So I did get some of the micro mesh, and I started at the 3200 and then went up to the 3600, then 4000, 6000, 8000, and 12000. And then I finished it off with some Meguiar's rubbing compounds and polishing compounds. I do want to move to a different polishing compound. I'm not super happy with the Meguiar's. The Meguiar's polishing compound absolutely does not work well with a rotary tool. It likes to be hand done. And even the rubbing compound, I can use the rotary tool with it, but I end up going back over it after I'm done with the rotary tool and hand rubbing the last bits of it out. We have some of our chrome bits in place. We have our mirrors, came out really nice. They look really good against that red. Our door handles, got a tiny touch of super glue in there, but I managed to clean most of that up. Our scratch built door handle does not look bad. A little bit of dust and pet hair. When you have two cats and a dog, sometimes stuff gets everywhere. It's also a reason why I spray in the garage, because the pets don't go in the garage, so I don't have to worry about getting pet hair anywhere in the paint job. You can't even see the decal transfer at all under that clear. The grills look fantastic. Got our hood ornament in place. Well, there's still a ton of chrome left to go. There's reflectors that go here and here. The tail lights just sit, and I'm not real happy about that. They just sit on the back. There's not an actual locating point for the tail lights, so I'm gonna have to be real careful with where I place those and how I place them, and making sure I get them lined up well. The Headlights, of course, are going to have some chrome buckets in there. Then there's these turn signal indicators, which I found the 2K is too thick, and I had to actually sand the turn signal indicators down considerably just to get them to fit in. There's also a couple of vent slats that go on either side next to the turn signal indicators. The kit says not to use them, but I really like the look of them, so they're going in. There's a couple of grills down here as well that are chrome. So those are going to get, all that's getting stripped right now. That'll get re-chromed and put on the body. I've done a test fit on the body, and it is an incredibly snug fit. In fact, every time I test fit the body, I end up breaking this support brace loose. So I'm probably going to end up maybe trying to slide some sandpaper under there to sand that and flatten that back down and glue that back into place. But yeah, it's really snug, so I'm not going to be doing too much more test fitting until I'm ready to put the body back on. So next steps are going to be that engine bay. I have a couple of mods planned for the engine bay. We are going to see what happens. There's some scratch building. The real question is going to be, can I get it all to fit in that snug little engine bay? We're going to see what happens. And that might take me more than a week. So we're going to see what happens next week for an update. But some of the scratch building is going to take some time. And that's going to wrap things real close. Once I get the engine done and the rest of these bodies done and get the glass finished up. Speaking of the glass, I do have our windshield cut down. Sides have been removed. Clean up the corners a bit. Remember, we had these side vent windows. So I just put 2 pieces of Tamiya tape along the line where I drew a line with a Sharpie. And I put 2 pieces of Tamiya tape in there, kind of guide what I was doing. And I just used one of these flat photo etch razor saws. Every now and then these are useful, but for the most part these are way too thin. But if you put down the tape like I did, it will often give you enough of a guide to keep it from wobbling too much. So do the engine, finish up the body trim, put the glass in, and make a tonneau cover, and we should be done. If you enjoyed the video, please hit the like button. Also, feel free to leave comments, feedback, critique, or anything else in the comment section below. I enjoy interacting with all my viewers in the comment section and try to reply to all the comments I receive. If you want to catch future videos, please consider subscribing to my channel and make sure you click the bell notification icon so you can be notified when I upload new videos. As always, thank you for watching, keep modeling, and have a great day.